Welcome to another episode of the STR Sisterhood. I'm your host, Stacey St. And first of all, I just want to say a huge thank you for welcoming me into your day today. And secondly, I want to share a quote that I recently read that resonated with me. And it says this: I learned a long time ago that there is something worse than missing the goal, and that's not pulling the trigger. Those beautiful words come to us from two-time Olympic gold medalist Mia Hamm. Now, in today's episode, we are talking all about managing remotely. And I sit down with Nicole Rutherford to hear about her story and get some inside tips and tricks as to how she is managing her portfolio remotely. So without further ado, let's dive into my conversation with Nicole. So today we are joined by Nicole Rutherford. And before we get started, Nicole, just thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Stacey. I'm so excited to be here with you today.
So why don't I start off and have you share a little bit with our audience about who you are and where you live?
My name is Nicole, and I am actually a full-time nomad, so traveling around the U.S. in an RV, and it's been 4 years doing that. I am a Florida real estate agent and manage Airbnbs remotely. So we're in 5 different states and help people with finding their investment properties.
Oh my gosh, that is so fun. So when I ask where you live, you're like, I don't know where I live. I live on the road, Stacey. So I have so many questions about this. First, how did you get started in the short-term rental industry? And then secondly, I'd love to find out how you got started living in an RV.
Absolutely. So we actually used to be gym owners in San Diego, California. And once COVID happened, that obviously in California shut gyms down for a while. So we ended up packing up all of our things and moving back to the East Coast. I'm originally from Maryland. And when we got there, I was like, my dream's always been to find a job that I can travel and be able to work wherever I want, which usually I was a hairdresser, a gym owner. None of those allowed me to travel. And we signed up for a course to do rental arbitrage, which some people may know, some others not as sure about what that is. But we started off in Airbnbs that way and had 5 homes in San Antonio that we were renting the houses from the owners and managing them ourselves as if they were our own houses. And from there, we found an RV in Las Vegas, Nevada, July 4th, 2020, flew out to Vegas and started RVing and doing Airbnbs.
Wow, that's amazing. So I'm curious then, how did you get started with your real estate license? Because you just mentioned you're a Florida agent as well, correct?
Correct. So we were spending about the last year in Florida while we were using that as a home base. So whenever people are like, where are you from? I'm like, depending where we're at, I'll say usually where we're at that moment. So I got my real estate license early last year, knowing that I wanted to start growing myself as a Airbnb host and being able to analyze deals better. But we were also working with about 8 different investors at that time. And I'm like, that would be really cool to be able to help them and be more knowledgeable about the market and what I'm seeing. So when we were in Florida, I got my license and have been able to help a few investors with purchasing their home and work with investors in other states as well. If they're looking in Texas, I'm very familiar with San Antonio, so I can hook up with an agent there, making sure that one that's very investor friendly and we can help that client together, knowing I know a little bit more about the Airbnb space. They know a little bit more about that actual market.
Gotcha. I love it. So I have my real estate license as well. And so I feel like we're sisters from another mister, although I don't own an RV.
Maybe one day. It's not for everyone, but it's fun if you're like traveling all the time.
So talk to me a little bit about your business structure. If you're managing properties remotely, obviously you and I both know that, it does take some structure and process. Talk to me a little bit about, are you doing this all on your own? Do you have help in your business? What does it look like?
So myself and my partner started this. We used to own the gyms together, and then we started Airbnbs together. So we've kind of started off on this new venture together. And now we're at the point we do have a lovely lady that's helping us out. She was our first client, turned cleaner, now a business partner, and she's helping us with managing these houses that we work with. But the structure of the business is we have her doing a lot of the day-to-day communication. I'm trying to continue to build our business while also being more in touch with all of the owners that we work with and being their go-to for anything that they need, but also kind of anything that our teammates need, being cleaners, handyman, our helper, Erica. If anyone has any questions, I'm usually the one that they can go to. And then Jason's kind of running all the background numbers, paying all of our cleaners on a daily basis and making sure the numbers are all working and helping with pricing.
Gotcha. Amazing. And as you know, there are, as you just alluded to, various things that go on in the day-to-day of the business. So it sounds like you have your roles and responsibilities well outlined, which is, I think, an incredibly important part of operations, right?
Yeah.
So many times when there are multiple people within a business, not having that role clarity can cause a lot of friction and challenges.
Absolutely. We struggled with that a lot when we first started, for sure.
Absolutely. Talk to me a little bit about your portfolio. So you mentioned that you did rental arbitrage in San Antonio. Where are the other properties that you're helping to manage? Where are the properties located?
So we have one in Las Cruces, New Mexico, near White Sands National Park. We have a few in San Antonio. We are in Cape Coral, Florida, in West Palm Beach, Florida, and also Palm Harbor, Florida. We help one up in Lexington, Kentucky, and South Carolina is another market that we're in as well, which I think you said Myrtle Beach was one of yours, right? We were in Myrtle Beach. I'm actually under contract for a house in Aiken, South Carolina, which is just where I had family move to. So we'll be using that as a duplex and using that as a short-term rental as well.
Oh my gosh, how fun. And so talk to me a little bit about your cleaning teams, your maintenance teams. Obviously, with being in multiple locations, you have to have teams in all those locations. How have you found success in sourcing your team members?
Most of them, we've been very fortunate of being able to initially go and either set up the house. So we'll help people with getting designed and set up, and then we'll go actually meet team members. So that's part of our setup fees. We're going to go find your photographer, find your cleaner, find the handyman when we get to go there. And we're usually only there for a week or two, getting everything set up and structured. So we don't have a lot of time to find our team, but have been really fortunate of using Turno as one of the biggest sources we do use when we're first reaching out to find our cleaners. Or if you're in a big enough market, I know Myrtle Beach is one where there's a whole Facebook group just for Airbnb hosts in that area. So finding people off of Facebook groups. We're on care.com too to help source cleaners that we want to actually be. They're not on a cleaning team necessarily, but we've been trying to use that more to kind of build teams ourselves in those local markets, especially if we have great head cleaners there. And we know that we want to continue to grow into that market. And we've had some amazing cleaners. And I talk more about the cleaners because they're just the most important aspect of your team. I'll tell hosts that we're working with them, like, management's important, but your cleaners are 10 times more important than your manager even is, because they're the ones that are there on a day-to-day basis, making sure that the house is in perfect condition and guest ready.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. Your cleaners are, your eyes, your ears, your front line of defense. your greatest asset in this industry. I'm curious, when you are looking for cleaners, what type of characteristics or qualities or experience is most important to you? How do you vet them?
If they have Airbnb cleaning experience, that is wonderful. I would say most of ours have at least had that so far. So it makes it a little bit easier going into it that they've at least cleaned an Airbnb before, even if it's just a 1-bedroom or a studio and we're going to be sending them a 5-bedroom house. But people that are just energetic and excited to be doing this job with you, we've just learned when people come into it and you're just another person that they're looking to make a quick buck with, it usually doesn't work out in the long run. But people that are really excited about what they're doing, because it's an important job, and we always make sure that we have our first conversation with them. We're like, look, we do ask for a lot. We're hoping you can help with trash if we need propane tanks filled, and we'll obviously compensate you for it, but we require a little bit more than sometimes regular hosts in your market. And so people that are energetic and enthusiastic about it and are willing to take feedback and not get upset when we mention something. And again, most of our cleaners are great, but we all mess up. We all make mistakes, and having someone that's willing to learn and grow with you rather than I do my business this way, and if you don't like it, then so be it.
Sure. No, I totally agree. I think obviously finding folks for your cleaning team or even your maintenance teams that align with your values, I think is incredibly important. And also making sure, you talk about that enthusiasm. That is so important. And I think it's something that a lot of people overlook. Maybe they're not looking into the personality of the person, but you have to think about the fact that your cleaners you're going to be engaging with on a regular basis and making sure that, they fit within your core values, how you operate as a person and how you want the culture of your business to be, I think is so, so important. I love that you mentioned that.
Yeah, the cleaners are number one, and the handymen as well, making sure, because a lot of times they're the ones that are actually going to be interacting with a guest too. So we've had some that were a little bit rude to our guest because it was a smaller issue in their eyes, which you know how that is, where there's sometimes very minor issues that arise, but we still send a handyman out for it. And one of our first guys we had to let go because he was just mean to our guest when he was going to fix things. And we're like, I don't care how small it is. We're paying you to do this. These guests are paying good money to come to this property. We need someone that's going to be treating them with respect, just as if you were coming to us for work. We don't want to be acting that way towards anyone.
I totally agree. And I also have experienced a situation where one of our maintenance team members told our team, hey, I'm going to be there at 11 o'clock. So that's what we told the guest. Yeah. And unfortunately, the maintenance team member was like 3 hours late, right? Didn't inform our team. And so our guest, although they didn't have like a rude communication interaction, they felt very upset because they felt like their time was wasted, right? Absolutely. So I think, again, making sure that your team members that are the boots on the ground understand the guest experience that we're looking to provide, and making sure that they're a good fit in many different ways, right?
Yes, and communication, other than like looking for someone that's energetic, having people that are really amazing with their communication. We always say, I don't care if you feel like you're being annoying with how much you communicate with us. We always want you to over communicate rather than not communicate enough. So that's definitely the other key factor for the team members that we look for.
Absolutely. Talk to me a little bit about how you work the logistics behind the scenes with communications with your team members? Are you using Slack, WhatsApp? How are you keeping everyone straight in multiple locations?
We use WhatsApp for everyone just since it's a lot easier to send photos there too, because that was something we were struggling with at first is where do we have them send all these photos? And we tried Google Photos. If we are on Turno with that team, we do have them send it in there, but our day-to-day communication is usually easiest through WhatsApp. And we just have separate channels for each market because even in Florida, we're in 3 different markets. So we don't work with, most of our cleaners have 2 houses of ours at most. So we do have a bunch of different WhatsApp channels just for our team members. Sure. And first thing in the morning, what we do is make sure to look at the schedule. We reach out to the team, even though we do have it all set up in a PMS system that they get notified. We just like to make sure no cleaning is ever missed. We've only had one ever missed. And thank goodness we noticed before a guest was there, but we message them all first thing in the morning saying, here's our cleaning schedule for today. Please let us know if we need propane, if we need to have a handyman by, and just kind of a nice little reminder on a day-to-day of these are things that we need to know as soon as you get there today.
Absolutely. So good. So good. So I'm also curious, I'm sure you and I can probably compare war stories as well. What has been one of your biggest challenges with managing remotely, and how have you overcome that?
I think for everyone getting started, the biggest fear managing remotely is, oh my gosh, what if something happens and I'm not there? What if a party breaks out? What if I need to get a guest something? And it does go back to having our team, like most of our team members, if we need something ran to the house, maybe they're not able to get there that same day, which it's usually not an emergency. If we need a fan, thank God for Instacart, but you will find a lot of tools of like, if you do need to have something sent there that same day, a lot of our market, thankfully Amazon and Instacart, both will be able to ship things same day to our houses. But in Las Cruces, Amazon's kind of a 2-day delivery thing out there. So we do have someone that's kind of what we call a runner. If we need him to go to the house and help a guest with something, he's very handy. So he's kind of our go-to person. And we have one of those in each market. Sometimes it's our cleaner. Other times it's actually finding someone. This guy was off of Instacart and I was able to grab his number. And now we've been working with him for a year and he's awesome. So you find people in these really random ways that are able to help you out. But we've been so fortunate that we haven't had any major things, but we have had our little parties break out where the neighbors are very nice in most of our neighborhoods and reach out to us first and give us the opportunity to contact a guest. And most people have been really good and understanding. There's a few that like to hang up the phone when you call them. And they were having a little party, but we have had to call the cops once and the neighbors actually beat us to it for that house and they broke the party down and everyone left that night. So we were really lucky with that. And then our funniest story was someone stole all of our nightstands out of our house. So which was the craziest thing. It was a couple. And so the guy broke up with the girlfriend and he left the house and the reservation was on his name. And I guess she was very upset that he broke up with her and she took all the nightstands out of our house. But
what a random thing to take.
Right. I'm some of them were these cute little almost plant stand ones, but it was just the funniest thing. And she left one on a few sides. So it was just really funny, but our team there was great. I'm like, hey, I have to order all new nightstands. You guys put them together for me tomorrow. And yeah, no problem. We all have a good laugh over it. And just day to day, there's always something new popping up.
That is hilarious. I have not heard of that before. So now, you mentioned you use Turno. You mentioned you use WhatsApp. What other tech do you utilize to manage your day-to-day?
We use Hospitable. That's our PMS system. We used to use IDMS and had good experiences with both. I think Hospitable is a little bit more user friendly for most people getting started. And then for our pricing, we do use Price Labs for our dynamic pricing. We used to have Beyond Pricing, but have switched over to Price Labs recently. We like to try all the different ones. And I've used Guesty before, but I think for most people with the portfolio size we do, Hospitable is just a great option for it. And then recently started using Clearing for our accounting services, because that can definitely get a little crazy when you're co-hosting for other people and they're not necessarily your own property. So Hospitable for our PMS, Price Labs, Turno for cleanings, and Hospitable for cleanings as well. And then Clearing and WhatsApp.
Gotcha. And I'm curious, with your co-hosting model, do you structure it so that your property owners are receiving the funds and then you are invoicing them? Or are you receiving the funds and issuing payments to your property owners?
The first option. So we like to allow all of our owners to actually own their listing. So in most co-hosting scenarios, a lot of times the co-host will create the profile under their own account so that they own it and they get the reviews, which would benefit us a lot in certain ways of having all of those reviews. But we wanted to make sure that's kind of a selling point for us, for our owners. Is like, we don't want to hold you hostage and you stay with us just because we own your reviews. So we make sure that all of our owners actually have access to see our messages daily with guests. They get all the payouts. They get the reviews so that if they ever decide to self-manage, because some of them have gone into this saying, look, I just really need help getting started. And once I feel comfortable, I'll probably manage. And I'm like, that's fine. I am here to help people. I'm not here to hold anyone hostage and just trying to keep someone under my reign. So we make sure the owners get their payouts. We do collect our cleaning fees and our co-host percentage now that Airbnb allows that initially. Because when we started off, we didn't know to do that. And we were trying to make sure the owners felt good and got all their money. And then at the end of the month, we're like, wow, we had $1,000 in cleaning fees this month that we had to pay on ourselves and wait for reimbursement. So now we collect the cleaning fees so that we usually pay our cleaners same day or the day after they do the cleaning. And we want to make sure that they're staying happy. So we now collect the cleaning fees in our percentage now that Airbnb allows it again.
Gotcha. I love that. I love that. Now, I'm curious too, a lot of folks get into co-hosting and they may have a client that they're starting out with and they want to get more clients. How have you found success in growing your co-hosting client base?
We've been very fortunate that we form a lot of referral partnerships, and some of them are just friends that we had that were real estate agents. And we're like, that's how we got our first few clients, was kind of randomly. Erica was our girl. We met her literally buying a poof off of Facebook Marketplace from us. And she was like, my Airbnb is not doing well. Like, could I get some help if I need it? And we're like, yes, absolutely. Feel free to reach out. And we heard from her the next month and started managing for her. And then one of our other clients was just, our friend is a real estate agent as well in Florida. And they were looking to purchase the Airbnb. And she's like, would you be able to help them? And from there, that's kind of how it grew. Was we have a few real estate agents we work with that give referrals. So finding agents are one of your best sources for...
I totally agree. Totally agree. I feel like that is such an underserved opportunity, because your real estate agents in each of these markets have the inside track on who's buying a property and planning on utilizing it as a short-term rental. So I totally agree that when you focus your client acquisition strategy on the real estate agents, it can make receiving referrals so easy, so stinking easy.
Especially when you build a good relationship with that agent and they know and trust. Because if you talk to most agents, they will all say, oh my gosh, finding a good property manager for long-term rentals or finding someone that can take care of these clients that I trust as a short-term rental host is really hard. They all struggle with that. And even if you know any lenders that are in the area, I mean, lenders are great too, but they also know people that are buying and selling, and maybe their real estate agent doesn't have anyone either that they can recommend. And a lot of times Facebook groups can be great for people looking for a short-term rental host. It depends on the market there, but some of those larger Facebook groups, you'll have someone that's, oh, I'm struggling to find anyone to help out, or I'm just tired of running it myself. So we found a few organically through there and found a sneaky way to find property owners on Airbnb and find their contact information. If we usually look for houses that aren't performing well, and we know that they could do a lot better, and reaching out to those owners by finding their house on Google Maps and reaching out to them from PropStream. So we've had a few ways to get some clients. Latest client was someone that we found their address and found them on PropStream, and they were working with Vacasa, and they're like, we are just thinking about switching. We're like, well, perfect timing. We'd love to work with you.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that you've added some strategy behind that to, locate underperforming properties, as you mentioned, and researching to find the contact information for the owner. And PropStream is a great tool to utilize. You can also do that in the commercial space using a tool called Crexi, Crexi. And there are a variety of other tools to help locate, property addresses and owners. You can do skip tracing. There's a whole variety of different tools out there. But I love that you specifically reached out to them, and you just never know when somebody's going to be looking to make a move. So I think the more seeds you can plant in developing those relationships with owners, whether it's, you reach out to them and they say, no, I'm happy with Vacasa. Well, maybe in 2 years' time, they won't be, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And that's for a lot of people that they might have just switched over, but we have had people that are like, I just switched over everything, but if this doesn't go well, I'll make sure to reach out to you in the future. So just building those relationships, planting the seed, because you never know when someone, maybe they don't have and we've even had owners that they're like, this person only works in this market, but if you guys could help me in other markets that I plan to grow and expand into, not now, but later.
Yes. Yes. I love it. Now, talk to me a little bit about the guest side of your business. I think you mentioned your business partner takes care of pricing. And is it the first person that you mentioned that does a lot of the guest communications?
Yeah. So we have her helping out with most of the guest communication now. And the coolest thing was I got to train her from the past few years, because she was a client turned now partner in the business. And so we've been really working through how to communicate with a guest. Usually when an issue arises is how to responding to people when they're not happy with something that came up at the house. But we do have a lot of our messages, I'm sure like you have as well, a lot of them are scheduled out so that we take it out of having to send every single check-in message 2 days before check-in, a thank you message at the end of our stay. So we try to make it as automated as possible so that, one, we mess up as humans. If I had to write that message out each time, there would be spelling errors in it and everything. So trying to have a lot of those messages scheduled out so that you're never missing it on timing, making sure that guests have your code at the correct time. But the guest communication, I think other than finding your team, that's probably the second hardest part for most people, is just learning how to communicate with other people, especially when they might not be very happy with something that they're seeing at the house. Or we had one guest recently that he got there at 2 a.m. and he was like, the house is beautiful, but I'm so upset that this one window doesn't have a blind over it. And we were like, wow, we've been operating for 1.5 years now, and no one has ever voiced that complaint with what I'm saying in my head. And to him, it's just like, oh, I'm so sorry about that. I can schedule my handyman out today and have him. It was a $10 fix to be able to make this guest much happier. And he hasn't left his review yet. He just left. So we'll see what we get. But hopefully, and that's the best you can do, is just trying to, anytime an issue comes up for these guests, trying to be on top of it. And some of them might seem absolutely ridiculous. I think one of the funniest ones recently we had was someone, our fridge makes ice, but it didn't make as much ice as he wanted as quickly, and asked if we could send a bag of ice over when the grocery store was a 2-minute drive away. But we needed some extra towels there too. So it was just, okay, I'll place my order, have some towels, and here's your $1 bag of ice to get delivered to you.
Wow. It is quite amusing sometimes when we think about the requests that we get from guests, because I would never envision asking a host to send ice, but to each his or her own, right?
Exactly. And I would say most guests are everyone's terrified when they start. What if these guests are horrible and throw parties? And I always say 95% of our guests are awesome. We really, maybe it's just us that we have that high of a percentage, but I really most of the people that we get into the property. And there's the 5% that are your headache that make it, you question what you're doing some days. But the other 90% of them are wonderful humans and do take great care of the house. We just had one recently that we don't ask them to do much for checkout instructions, but they did all the laundry, left a note on the dishwasher saying the dishes were clean, like just left it. And my cleaners messaged me as soon as they got there, and they were like, this is the best day ever. These were the most wonderful guests. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, don't expect that regularly, but these are great guests.
That's awesome. Yeah, it is nice when guests go above and beyond, or when you get those thank you notes, from guests. Sometimes just reading their reviews, it makes your heart sing, because in my world, most of the properties that I manage are vacation rentals, although I do have some midterm rentals and I would say properties not in vacation markets, shall we say. But the vast majority of my portfolio are vacation rentals. And, just to read their comments sometimes and feel like you're a very small part of them making lifelong memories together, there's nothing like that feeling. Absolutely nothing like it,
Yeah, that's one of our favorite parts. And that's what you have to come into hosting, or if you want to be a co-host, you have to come into it with the expectation, like your job is to make these people's vacations or stays. I mean, we've had a lot of people that are coming for a family member died, and we're hosting their whole family. And one of the sweetest notes that we left was from someone that was celebrating their mother's life, who's passed away. And they're coming back again this year to stay again, just because they had such a wonderful time with their family, even though it was a heartbreaking experience of why they were all gathering together. It's like you get to make these memories. For a lot of times we're hosting large families, and it's just so fun to see all the stuff they get to do. And it is the best part of hosting, is getting to make these memories for people.
Yeah, totally agree. So what is next for you? Are you going to continue to grow your portfolio? Talk to me about where's next on the RV plan. Like where's the next stop? But give us the inside scoop here.
Right this second, we're in San Antonio, Texas, setting up 5 Airbnbs this next 2 months. So we'll be a little busy this next 2 months. And then I'll be heading back to South Carolina to set up my duplex and get that short-term rental ready. But the goal is we would love to be helping 25 hosts by the end of this year with their Airbnbs. And one of my longer-term, sort of short-term goals in this next year or two is to start building, which I know you had Avery Carl on here, one of your first, but I would love to have a team of real estate agents, similar to how she does, in all these different markets, especially the ones that I'm working with, and have a team that are just my go-to people for agent that I know that they're familiar with the short-term rental market, maybe they're hosts themselves, and be able to help clients in all these different markets, because I love getting to travel from place to place and see all these beautiful houses people are setting up. So I just am not someone that can stay in one place at one time, but I do have my team of girls back in Florida that they're wonderful. And anytime I have someone in West Palm Beach, Florida to Miami, we have a team of over 40 agents down there that can help their clients. So it's just, my goal would be to have a team of agents all over the US and all these markets where I know and can trust them to help out investors that I'm working with.
I love that. And, I love that you have a vision for your future. I think it was told to me recently that like 90% of people can't envision their future or don't have goals for their future. And I just can't even hardly wrap my brain around that, right?
Maybe
but I love that you have given this thought, and you might not be in a position today to have agents all over the country, but you know what you want, and you can absolutely reverse engineer that process in making that come to life. So I just, first of all, want to say kudos to you, girlfriend, for having the vision to begin with.
I appreciate it. It's exciting to dream. And even if they don't, I've realized most of the things don't perfectly work out the way I expected to. Even co-hosting wasn't what we initially anticipated. We were going to just keep building our own Airbnbs through arbitrage, and co-hosting has been such a blessing. It kind of fell into our lap initially, but just setting your mind and having that goal and being able to kind of pivot when things don't go initially as anticipated. And even our coaching stuff, I'm actually still a coach, and we closed our gyms, but do online coaching. So there's always a way, even if it doesn't go exactly as you planned, there's still great outcomes that are going to be happening in the future.
Amen. Amen. All right, Nicole, I want to move to the lightning round. Okay. So I'm going to ask you some questions, and I'm going to ask you to answer with the very first thing that comes to mind.
Perfect.
First question is, where is your favorite place to vacation?
Yellowstone National Park was absolutely, like, hands down one of the best national parks. I'm a big national park person, and that one, if you haven't been yet, absolutely need to go.
I'm curious. I've actually never been. When you travel there, what amount of time would you recommend someone stays?
We did a week there, which we were able to hit as much as we really wanted to see, and also go to like Jackson Hole. So we were staying right in between Wyoming, Montana, and Idaho, which that was a wonderful spot if you want to see a few different national parks. And just, we got to go to a rodeo and all kinds of fun stuff. I mean, it takes you back in time a little bit being there, but it's so cool and just very different. I love the beach too. I mean, we did 17 national parks in a year was like our goal. One year I'd love to hit 20, but wow, a week is good. If you can do 2 weeks, even better.
Awesome. Okay, what's one place you've never been that you want to visit?
Greece is like my number one spot that I want to go to. I'm not really sure why, other than just the photos of it look beautiful. But in the US, I still need to go to Oregon. We only got to do a day or two there when we were supposed to be there for 6 months. So in the US, Oregon is where I really want to go and spend a nice month or two there.
Awesome. Many people may not know, but Oregon has amazing wineries. So yeah, if you're a wine girl, you have to check that out. All right. What's one thing you know now that you wished you knew when you were starting out in the world of short-term rentals?
Gosh, I would say for me, I'm someone that does jump really quick into things. And so just doing a little bit more research and due diligence into that market that you're entering into, it's great to jump quickly into things. And I'm someone that's I'm like, yes, you have to jump before you're totally ready. But if you're not familiar with this, find a really good agent or someone that's in that market that can just advise you some. Not that we want to get analysis paralysis and never take that leap, but just finding someone local to the market who can truly help and advise you and make sure that our location that we chose when we first came into San Antonio wasn't the best area. And we didn't know that because we weren't here. So finding someone that would have been local to help be like, maybe that's not the best area for short-term rentals, especially if you're doing it from afar.
Yeah, no, and I think that's a really important point because even in Myrtle Beach, as an example, I own and manage properties in multiple locations throughout Myrtle Beach. But if you're not inherently familiar with the market, it can be really easy to buy in a location that is not ideal. And so I love that advice that you really get to know someone who has experience locally to be able to guide you and maybe some pockets to look into and some pockets to avoid.
Yeah. And I know Myrtle Beach is definitely one of those areas, like North Myrtle Beach versus Myrtle Beach are just two entire different markets in and of itself.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, next question. What is the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
I think just not being scared to get started into this, that and jumping before you are ready, though you need to do your due diligence. I used to be someone that would just always dream of all these ideas and never take action on it. And a lot of them were ideas I'm sure could have worked out beautifully, but we just are so afraid to take that first step of something that's new and scary to us. So not being afraid to jump into things. And though our experience when we first opened, I'm always very honest about it. It didn't go as anticipated. We did end up losing a lot of money, but it led us into this whole other sector that's been very lucrative and profitable for us. So even if you do make a mistake your first time, and that's why I'm saying do your due diligence and try to have someone limit those mistakes, but you're going to make mistakes and just jump in before you feel entirely ready is always better than never taking that risk.
Love that. Love that. Last question rather. What's one thing and or person that you're grateful for today?
I will say my partner, Jason, he's been with me through this whole ride. So we went from owning gyms to him being very supportive and letting me try all the crazy ideas I have and always supportive for whatever I've tried to venture into.
I love that. Well, Jason, kudos to you. Oh, Nicole, thank you so much for being here. It was so fun to get to connect with you. If someone is listening and wants to find out more about you or your business or how you might be able to support them, what's the best place for them to find you online?
Instagram would be the best. So it's _ Nicole Rutherford, and I can spell out my last name or have it in the comments later, and _ at the end. And that's where most responsive is on Instagram.
Awesome. Nicole, thank you again.
Thank you so much, Stacey. It was a pleasure to meet you and chat with you today.
You too. Now, before you go, I want to give a quick shout out to some of the amazing women inside the Female Short-Term Rental Investors Facebook group, where we have more than 59,000 women as of today who eat, sleep, breathe, and talk short-term rentals each and every day. Just a few days ago, Julia Erica posted, "How often do you get your carpets professionally shampooed? We got them cleaned in May, but after a summer's worth of stays, it seems time. Is it worth buying a big green machine so we can do it ourselves?" And so many ladies have jumped in to share their input. Jennifer Eddy posted, "High traffic area rugs like in the living room are 2 to 3 times per year. Carpet or rugs in bedrooms are 1 to 2 times per year. We have a Bissell carpet cleaner and DIY the cleaning of area rugs, but we hire out for bedroom cleaning, and it's usually $99 for 1 to 2 rooms, so it's worth the time savings." Great advice, Jennifer. And with that, I hope you have enjoyed this episode and I hope you have an amazing week ahead of you. Until next time.